Hi, everyone. Well, I'm really stunned. The sixth edition of the Freelance Business Month is now accomplished. You won't believe how many times, folks, I was telling myself this is going to be the last time because it is exhausting. But bringing people together is stronger than me. Each Freelance Business Month is a huge milestone in my personal life as well. It's not just about celebrating the freelance business with you, it's also a reflection of my own journey. Freelance Business Month has been with me through all the ups and terrible downs, and it stands as a testament to my growth as well. Looking back, here's how the messaging of Freelance Business Month evolved through the years. 2020, the first one was dedicated to follow your dreams. And all the way to 2025 is about clarity, growth, and community. Listening to the sessions this month, I came to one clear conclusion. Operating in intuition alone is no longer enough. Building solid foundation in your business is essential to start seeing real results and to take control of your freelancing. We have heard so many advices and so much wisdom, from sales frameworks and finding your ideal customer to operations and automations, you just name it. I guarantee the actionable ideas were endless. But where do you start implementing them? Did you ask yourself this question? Throughout my freelance journey, I tried countless strategies and ad hoc improvements, hoping for instant results, which rarely happened. And you know why? Because quick fixes don't work. They didn't happen because I was looking at my business as a system. I wasn't looking at my business as a system. And I found the system. I developed a framework that will help any freelancer stop being anxious about what to do next. I am excited to introduce the launch of the Freelance Business Academy, which will not only help you professionalize your business, but also provide a practical assessment tool. The first course that I am preparing is the culmination of years and lessons, experiments, and failures that I've been through myself. It is designed to give you a clear, holistic view of your freelance business marketing. No more random execution or scattered tactics, only strategic moves that unlock your progress. It's going to be a practical framework to pinpoint what's holding you back from being recognized as an expert in your field. This course is based on the 8 P's of freelance business marketing framework that I've been honing all year. I guarantee that after completing the course and the assessment, you'll finally see how all the P's in your marketing mix interact, and you will no longer spread yourself thin on sporadic actions that don't bring results. After completing the course and learning about 8 P's, you'll be recognizing that all the advices that have been given during the Freelance Business Month falling into this 8 P's framework. And it's going to be easier for you to understand. If we talk about ideal customer persona, this is because the other P's will follow that, and so on and so on. You will know more about that in the course. Think of 8 P's as the Vitruvian man of your freelance business. Only in balance, all P's will truly move the needle for you. And if you are excited, as I am, scan this code, to join the waitlist for the Academy. I am thrilled that finally freelance business community will have an educational product to help even more freelancers improve the way they approach the business. So not only once a year in a month, but throughout the year, anyone can follow this course. And now you might ask, Elena, stop it. Where are the guests? Okay, they're here, folks. They're here. They're ready to plant another seed in your mind. And I hope that seed will grow in a massive, massive tree. I've invited Rowena Hennigan, someone I've never met in person, as many of you, but have followed with huge admiration online. She's a top voice on LinkedIn with over 85,000 followers. 85, and has been featured in HBR, the New York Times, BBC, Business Insider. She is sought-after expert in remote work and a strong supporter of flexible work styles. And my questions to Rowena focus on what she believes helps create a strong personal brand, something that she has undoubtedly built herself. Welcome, Rowena.
Thank you so much, Alina. It's so lovely to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh my God, I was waiting for this moment so long.
I know we were just having a little bit of a nice emotional moment, weren't we, before we started to record? Because
Yeah,
it's been a lot. This has been a long time in the planning, long time.
true, true, true. And these are how connections happening, right, online.
Exactly, exactly.
It's-
The power of the digital world. The power of the digital world, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Rowena, I have several questions for you, and I'm pretty sure people who are listening us would like to ask those questions to you as well. You are very vocal on LinkedIn, and you have amazing brand, whether you have built it intentionally or not. But the questions I'm not going to ask you are about the work that you're doing, about messages that you're passing. And I know you've been freelancing since 1999, long before it became the mainstream. And you moved countries for your daughter's health, living the digital nomad style, as they like to call it these days. How did this experience help you to shape your brand of today?
So the brand with Row Remote, the brand that you see with Rowena Hennigan, is very much how I live my life, and that wasn't really intentional to start with, Alina, because the thing is, the story is all about remote work. I discovered in like 2007, as I said, I had my first tech contract in 1999. I left university in Scotland and got my first tech contract. And around 2007, I was down in New Zealand and Australia and started a contract where they enabled remote work. So I was traveling, doing the digital nomad thing, young and happy and all that, and moving around. And I took it for granted because I just thought all us tech workers, and we were the early evolvers, we must be able to work from different places. And so I just took it for granted. But roll on to becoming a parent, almost in 2 weeks, it'll be 12 years' time, so nearly birthday time here in Spain. And unfortunately, our daughter was born not initially with bad asthma, but a few months after being born, she developed bad asthma in Dublin. And Dublin is not a good place for asthmatics. The weather is really, really damp. So, Row Remote and everything I do about remote work came from that shock of here I am with a sick child in a damp house in Dublin. I can't find any work and I have a sick child at home. What can I do? And going back after maternity leave, looking for flexible and remote work. So that's when the penny dropped for me that if more people can access remote work and we train and we educate on remote work as an organizational model, we can enable more people in the workforce, including women, parents, caregivers, etc. And so remote work, my husband is a remote worker too. We managed, both of us, to move to Spain with our daughter for her health. And people ask me about my brand, but my brand is a reflection of my life because remote work changed our life. It saved our life because otherwise we would have been stuck in Dublin with a very, very sick child, trying to navigate a terrible health system. That's the reality. I would have not been working or working very little. And so I owed it all to remote work. I felt my purpose. I found my purpose was to advocate and fight for remote work. And that's what I do every day. And what you see, it's personal to me. And that's where the personal brand piece comes in because I have the lived experience of saving my family's livelihood, saving my daughter's health through being able to move to a country that was warm and could support her health. So it's quite emotional, Lena, but it's true because if I didn't have it and we didn't have it, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing today.
Yeah, it's fantastic story, Rena. Thanks for sharing. And indeed, I hear lots of similar stories in a way that through limitation, people discovering a different way of working that actually fits them much better than the standard 9 to 5 that we used to have before. And it's actually making life of people much easier and not being stuck in a situation, but actually developing something for them, and that works even for more people, not just for the family particularly.
Exactly, because when we widen up, as we go through stages of life, whether you're a parent or you're a caregiver for aging parents or for family members, whether you need to take care of yourself, and which we all do maybe as we age, whether we're experiencing a global pandemic, whether we're experiencing challenges with employment or our employers or clients, nobody is ever going to say, Alina, that's too flexible for me. Like, have you ever heard someone say, my employer or my contract is too flexible? Fair enough, they may say it's too wide, or it's not specific enough. But I think in terms of workplace flexibility, certainly for mature professionals, and that's what a lot of the people who are listening today can identify with that. They've been around a while. They know how to manage their own work. They're self-responsible and all those things. They practice self-leadership. And certainly when we talk about those types of professionals, which, by the way, the majority of freelancers I've ever met fit into that category, they thrive on that flexibility. They thrive on that autonomy. And then as life goes on, you lean into it more. You can caregive, you can give back to your community, you can have hobbies, you can do all these things that you didn't do when you were commuting or sitting in an office every day. So yeah, it really makes sense. And my recent experience of going through the menopause has also, and I'm still going through it, has also reaffirmed my appreciation and my admiration for true remote and flexible work.
Yeah, and you're very vocal on LinkedIn. Your posts gathering lots and lots of likes and comments, and you really trigger the nerve of people, featuring the benefits that remote work actually provides citizens. But in your opinion, is there a difference between having a personal brand and having authority in a niche? Because quite frequently we took both of them as the same. And is it always about self-promotion?
I think there's a few things at play there. I think the issue with personal brand is that it's our fast food society we're in. We've had a lot of people and gurus, inverted commas, on LinkedIn claiming you can build a personal brand over, a few months. I disagree, because people like you come to me and people come to me and I say, what you see now, the 100,000 followers or whatever, that started in 2017. It's been 9 years or whatever, 7, 8, 9 years in the making. And it's because I do think there's a difference that you build up a social kind of reliability or proof with people over time. So it's frequency, it's consistency, and therefore you show by your different things that you do over time. It's not something that you can do like overnight. And Alina, there's a really simple thing that I use as an example. People come to me for advice on getting a remote job or for building the skills in their remote teams. And I say to them, look at my testimonials. I am almost at 160 testimonials on LinkedIn back to 2009 when I first made my account. And to me, that's my social proof. If you want validation of my authority, you can read through, if you've nothing better to do, those almost 160 testimonials, which are public, in the public domain. So it's interesting, because when you go and look at these other self-proclaimed experts, it's not that I don't trust them. It's where I say, show me the proof and show me the variety of your authority, of your knowledge. And that's what I've done by concentrating on my testimonials. Every client that comes to me, I have a model where from the very minute I start with them, I'm going, I will be looking, let's hopefully aim that if you're happy with my work and our work together, you will write a testimonial and I will do one back for you. So it's part of my business operations. And for the freelancers listening that are trying to build any type of brand, realize that on LinkedIn has its limitations. But once you get those testimonials, you have them in public for the rest of your time as a freelancer. Of course, you can have them on your website. You could have Google reviews or Trustpilot, whatever works for you. But certainly I can talk about the LinkedIn ones. And I do think, I hope I'm answering your question, that that's the difference between saying, hey, I have a strong personal brand, and going, hey, I have a brand that brings me work because I've logged and recorded the benefit and value I bring to my clients for so many years. So I do really think it's important. So that's my perspective on it. That's my perspective.
Yeah. No, this is fantastic. I totally agree. Having testimonials and feedback builds your trust in front of others so that they know that people will engage with you, they were happy with the work. And eventually your personal brand is also the authority that you're building with the content that you put out there. And you actually, I think you mentioned a few things, but there's also responsibility for the message that you're carrying, that you stand behind it, and that you're not like, you have your course, you have your line, and you're following it, and you really stand behind what you share on LinkedIn or other social networks.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, but there is another message which always stops me from scrolling. There's something that you mentioned quite frequently is menopause in women's life. And I'm like, hold on a second, I'll be there. What do I need to know about it? So why did you decide to talk about such a subject, which is very sensitive, I would say, for many, open topic? And what do we need to know about it?
Well, my menopause journey and sharing, first of all, it wasn't easy to start with. I started having menopause symptoms, Alina, during COVID. So even if finding health support as a woman was easy, which it's not, okay, it's often not, to get the right type of health support as a woman. And if you need validation on that, you can read Invisible Women. It's a famous book by Carolina. I can't remember her second name, but we can share it in the notes. And that's all about the different data and the way science is biased against women in terms of medical care, etc. So I had read that book. I knew about that. But when I started having my symptoms, I couldn't get the care I needed. I couldn't find the right types of appointments. I didn't know at the start I was perimenopausal because I was 47. And because we were in the mid, I thought I was early. I wasn't that early, right? But we were in the middle of COVID, and I couldn't get the right appointments or treatment. So I kind of started ignoring it. And because the more you ignore something, of course, like your stress levels might be going up. You're not dealing with the symptoms. So then they multiply or they begin to build up. So what happened was I had a hard time for the first 2 or 3 years, and as a lot of women do. And therefore, I did start to share a little bit, but I was also I wasn't well. I took time off. I took a sabbatical. I needed time to recover. But when I came back, I realized that there was very few people about 3 years ago talking about menopause, 2-3 years ago. So I started posting on it, and I started talking about my symptoms. I've done 2 keynotes this year where I've included menopause as part of the keynotes, which I'm really proud about, because the organizers were really happy that's as you said, it's a sensitive subject, but we need more people talking about it so that we can build up a dialogue and we can have open conversations. And so what I decided to do was just be very, very candid about, when I felt, obviously, what you see on social media is me to a point, but it's not all me. I sit to think about what I write, and of course, because I'm a human being, I'm going to go, well, maybe I won't write that feels too personal. I always sense check to what feels good to me, right? So it's not a complete like window into everything, because it's in a moment and it's curated. But it is, if I'm having a bad day, or if I've had frustration with finding treatment or information. And the response, Alina, has been unbelievable. Like what you see in LinkedIn, maybe on your scroll, is nothing compared to the messages I get in my inbox. I have ended up in tears from women saying, thank you so much. And they're not commenting on the post because they're not able themselves to talk about it. So for whatever reason. And so I just think we need to break the taboo. Half of the population are going to go through menopause. It is completely misunderstood. The reality of it is, if we compare it to something like diabetes or another common condition, it is not easy to treat. Believe me, I mean, I am on HRT and weaning myself off it, but it wasn't easy to get treatment. It isn't always suitable for everyone. So it's a really complicated topic. And the reality of it is, there's very little support. There's very little support. Being based in Spain, I had good support in general when I found the right doctor and I found the right team to support me. But that took about 10 months, Alina, and then I had to go through more diagnosis tests, etc. So it's a really, really powerful area to speak about, because you said yourself, I'm going to go through it. And I will happily recommend you the books I wish someone recommended to me. There's a couple that I would highly recommend. And we can put those in the notes for people as well. And also to talk about partners and men that are partners that might be involved in a woman's menopause. Because when a woman goes through menopause, everyone around her can go through it if she is suffering, a lot of symptoms or struggling with her mental health or whatever it may be. And so I've also opened up a lot about my husband and how he supported me. His workplace was really supportive too. When I needed to take time off, he let them know, etc., etc. So we need to start having more discussions, because this is something that our most highly skilled mid-career people are lots of them are going to be menopausal or supporting a menopausal person, and therefore we need open discussions about it so that we can start to put in the supports that are needed.
Yeah, Rowena, I applaud that you took an initiative. It's such a taboo subject still, which is very surprising even for women coming across the messages. I'm like, oh, do we talk about it? Like, is it really something we need to discuss on LinkedIn? And as you just described, we do need, because it's part of our lives. And as a matter of fact, part of everyone's life, because, men live with women, technically, sometimes. But so that's the subject we do need to cover. And it's indeed important, as it's part of life indeed. So looking forward to see more of that. And the last question for you for today, since you've been freelancing for so long, so many years from 1999, what's the biggest lesson that still holds true today?
So the biggest lesson I learned, and it's actually related to the last question, okay, because and anyone who follows me on LinkedIn will know I'm pretty outspoken as well about the gender bias, the gender discrimination in all workplaces. 26 years in tech, most of it being freelance. I also have been on the other side. I've been fully employed. And many times I've found I've been treated differently, discriminated against, underpaid. When we add in that I happen to become a parent, we talk about the pregnancy penalty, right? So if you do become a parent, for both, I mean, there can also be an impact for men as well, or other partners. But I had the pregnancy penalty. And then the other day, Alina, I phrased my menopause as the red card, get off the pitch row, right? So when I got to menopause, it was also, hang on, I'm not well, I need time off. So you're not, again, you're not going to be paid, or you're going to possibly not have the support you need, particularly as a freelancer, because we have to support ourselves often. So my answer to all these years is from the gender angle, because it's been my lived experience. And any woman that is tuning into this, or anyone from a marginalized group, please know your value. I don't know how else to phrase it. And then you have to go off and figure out what that means. I undercharged for many years. I felt self-doubt. Some people call it imposter syndrome. Some people call it undervaluing. Anytime I have reviewed my costs and put them up, considering those almost 160 testimonials, and with the help of valued friends, colleagues, or people I trust, my husband, I generally will double my price or add another zero on to do big requests. I generally don't work for free at all. I mean, I generally, my rule is, if you ask me something, you pay for my time, because that's the way I've learned, the hard way, unfortunately, that people take free advice and they don't use it. So lots of the research, I'm an academic as well, and I have been, lots of the research shows, just to be clear, that there is bias against women in earning. This does reflect into freelance, any type of freelance contracts, freelance rates. Women are often, and marginalized groups, undercharging what a white cis man would charge. Okay. Next, okay, let's keep going. They're more likely to be asked for free work. This is an interesting one. And freelancers listening, I'm not saying you shouldn't do any freelance at all or very free work at the start, but you need to be super careful on that, because there is a transition from when you do some freelance, free work at the start to build your portfolio or whatever you're doing, and then you try and start charging. And that transition is super tough. Alina, I maybe you know what I mean from working in the community. It's a super tough transition. And I find often that particularly women, because of their own internalized bias as well, I'm not worth as much as that person. I don't, I don't have the same skills as him or them or they undervalue. So we need to be so careful. And I'm not just saying to people listening about how the market will treat you. I'm saying how you interpret yourself, okay, and how you value yourself. And I'm 54 next year, and I still, most days after 26, 27 years, I still check myself, because after so many years of being paid inequitably and unequally, it is a very hard habit to break, to constantly push against the reality of your rates are probably, they need to be adjusted, or you should be negotiating harder. And so it's a long way of answering, but the hardest, hopefully it's helpful to people. It will be one of your hardest battles, but it is one, if you're starting or near the start of your freelance journey, that I really, really recommend you spend time on. And it's my biggest learning. It's the one thing I still come back to every day, because of all those years and voices saying, hey, Ro, you're working on a team with 5 other guys, and you found out that although you're all doing the same thing, every guy around you has been paid more than you. And like, that's happened to me multiple times in my career. So even though that shouldn't happen, on an emotional and on a self-respect level, it does impact us.
Wow. Wow, what a summary at the end. But just to summarize that one, so build your value and build it yourself. Nobody's going to do it for you. But at the same time, build a supporting people system around you that lifts you up and not bringing you down. And there's something else you mentioned I wanted to bring up here, but yeah.
What I would add to it, that I think maybe I didn't say it as clear as I could have, is you will always come back to that. If you're from a marginalized group or someone that's maybe been underpaid, it could be that little, I don't want to say a chip, but it could be that little thing you have to keep an eye on. You have to keep an eye on it, because your value hasn't been recognized or respected by default from the start. Okay.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And yeah, the other comment I heard, someone said women are asked to do favors for free more often than men. And that, kind of tick box. I need to take that into account. And that's true. That's true. We tend to
be. So being asked things like, will you just do this for free, or can you, women, I don't know the other word for Alina, so maybe you can help. I think we feel a little bit more responsible, so that we're more inclined to go, I'll help. But secondly, and if you follow me on LinkedIn, you'll also see me talking a little bit. Some of us, I used to be like this. I'm a recovering, want to be liked. We want to please people, right? We want to keep everything nice, right? Because that's maybe from our childhood or whatever the reason. And I don't want to be liked. I want to be respected. And I'll repeat that. I don't want to be liked. I want to be respected. So actually comes back to your first question nicely, doesn't it? Is it a personal brand, or is it authentic authority and what you believe in? And therefore, if it's the second one, a personal brand, it's all shiny and nobody wants to make it look bad. Authority is more about taking some risks, being yourself, and being true to your own values. So we've kind of linked back to that first point quite nicely.
Yeah, love it. This is perfect. Thank you so much, Rowena. I enjoyed it so much. Oh, I love this discussion. Let me now briefly introduce Beatrice. Kabutakapua, another great example of someone building a strong personal brand. Beatrice is a researcher and recently published a book called Lead with Your Story. She emphasizes that while we are expected to share our stories, no one is teaching us how to feel worthy and confident while doing it. Do you remember what Rowena said about having the guts to share your story? Let's now hear from Beatrice. Hi, Beatrice.
Hi, Elena.
How did your book launch go?
It went very well.
Well, it's fantastic milestone for any career, and I'm very excited for you, and I can't wait to read that book. Can you tell us a little bit what your book is about? I know you shared with me a little bit, but for those who are watching, that would be great.
Definitely. So the book is called Lead with Your Story. And the core idea behind it is like the two topics that it merges are leadership and storytelling. And it's really a guide for leaders, for entrepreneurs to go from, I have no idea how to show up as myself as a leader. And I'm not sure that my lived experiences are even relevant at all, to actually I have clarity, I have a journey that I can go through, I have clear steps, and along this way I don't have to become anyone else, and I don't have to feel judged. It's a very warm guide for leaders to find their stories, own them, and then sharing them.
Yeah, and you say that your story is your superpower. And for freelancers who are trying to stand out in a crowded market, what's the first step in identifying the story that truly identifies the personal brand?
Yeah, I oftentimes think that there is a little bit of confusion around what personal brand is, which isn't becoming someone else or having all the design or having just the colors. It's really about the deeper why and how. So it's around why are you doing, why are you the person doing what you're doing, and how are you doing it differently? And the doing it differently, it doesn't mean, oh, I have to look at all my competitors and I have to check what they're doing, and I'm just going to articulate how I'm doing it a different way or how I achieve, XYZ in a different way, which is part of the way you market yourself as a freelancer. But truly, the one thing that nobody is going to take away from you, the one thing that we cannot replicate is our own stories. So as a freelancer, you really need to understand, why am I doing this? Like, why is this important? When was the first time that I thought about it? When was the first time I thought about how to do it in a different way, and why did I do that? And it sounds always a little bit overwhelming and like it's completely dissociated by the from the actual freelancing work, but understanding why you are doing what you're doing, it's so important, because it's something that will make you stand out immediately. It will also link you with the right clients for you, and it will also clarify your message and also your processes, because you will have a way of doing things that is completely different from another person.
I know that many freelancers struggle with showing their real selves online, kind of hiding behind a mask or whatever. And the fear is being too vulnerable or too different, or not like the same. How can they balance authenticity and coming out as themselves with professionalism when building the personal brand online?
Yeah, it's a very good question, because it's something that so many freelancers struggle with, but oftentimes the immediate answer is, I'm just gonna try and imitate what someone else is doing. And then it doesn't feel natural, and then it doesn't feel sustainable either. But it's really about understanding, first of all, why you don't feel like you should show up, because so many times, again, the reasons are hidden in the lived experience. So if you haven't been feeling safe being yourself, or being vulnerable, or being visible as well, that might also impact the way you show up in your business as a freelancer. So you might not think like you deserve to be visible, or you might think that you're not safe being visible. And it's important to understand all of those things, all of those reasons, because I really don't want freelancers to think that it's something about their strategy or their approach or their designs or their video or the quality or the audio. That's not it. Like, you can fix all of those things and you still might feel like you are not showing up as yourself. One of the things that I find very important to understand and to do is to remove yourself from the equation. So if you think about how am I helping my ideal clients or my future clients or my possible leads by sharing this information. And then it's not about yourself anymore, it's about the people that you're going to serve. And that removes a lot of the layers of fear and of, oh my gosh, they're gonna see me and they're gonna think that I did something, it's not a good quality and everything else. And then from the other side, when you were thinking about professionalism, there is a misconception a lot of the times about what being professional looks like, which isn't necessarily becoming this academic person who speaks in a completely different way. People need to see consistency, like the way you show up in your marketing material or online needs to be very close to the way you show up in person, because then people that's the feeling of, oh, I almost feel like I know them, right? And when people feel like they know you, then they're more likely to buy it from you as well. So you don't want to be a completely different person. You can still be you, obviously not the you who is like around family or children or partners, but it's still part of you, and it's the part of you that is sharing the knowledge that you have acquired that can help your clients or your leads.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. And I like how you said that we should not think what others are thinking of us, because most of the time, like, people don't even think about us. Like, honestly, like,
nobody cares.
Yeah, nobody cares. We're framing our image the way we want it and how we want to come out to the public. That's what we do. And we should not be concerned how they think about us in any other point of time at all. That's how it is.
The thing also is that, first of all, nobody cares. And also from the other side, people will always have something to say, whatever you do, however you do it. So you might as well just do the thing that makes you feel like you, and then, you let people talk. And also, in my journey, I realized that it was also very, very important to see where the feedback was coming from. Because I know many freelancers who are freelancers, and then they receive feedback from people who have, a 9-to-5 job or a completely different business background. You really need to understand who you're getting your feedback from. If it is from prospective clients, then okay, maybe we might listen a little bit more. But also we are going to have to look at what type of clients as well. But if it is from people who are not showing up online, who are not putting themselves, in front of a camera or making themselves vulnerable, it's very easy for other people to transfer their own fears and their own thoughts and their own behaviors onto you. So it's something to be mindful of.
Yeah, absolutely. And many people think that this story has to be dramatic or like world changing. I climb on the top of the ice mountain. I won a gold medal, and this is something to talk about. But for the rest, people think, well, I don't really have a story. But I know it's not true. And you're pitching exactly opposite, that everyone has a story. But how can freelancers use the everyday stories in building the expertise and authority and eventually the personal brand?
It's so funny, because I think that this idea that stories need to be dramatic comes from the fact that we watch way too many movies and we consume way too much fiction in a way. So we just associate storytelling with, big Hollywood productions. But stories are everyday stories, and people who say that they don't have stories to say, what they're really saying is that they don't have stories that they think are interesting enough, because every single human in the on planet Earth has stories to share. The thing to understand is, what is the lesson that I can get from this story? Not necessarily for me. Sometimes it can be the lessons from the perspective of the freelancer. Sometimes it can be a lesson in terms of the work and how you're doing. Sometimes it can be the lesson in respect of how you want to balance life and business. It's really about learning something from the experience and telling the story. But you can look at things at different ways. Maybe it's something that you saw, a story that you experienced that you found funny, or maybe a story that highlighted how you are resilient. And in that story, you want to share in a way with your audience that, resiliency doesn't need to look a certain way. And again, even in these cases, the mistake that oftentimes freelancers do and people who want to share stories do is to focus way too much on themselves, you know? So it's about, oh, but I don't think that this story is interesting enough. I don't see the interesting part in this story, but it's really not about you. It's about the experience that you can give to someone else.
And what is your story, Beatrice?
Ooh. I love to think that my story is a little bit like water, right? Like always moving and always changing. But in terms of, if I focus on the professional story, the evolution of my story was that I was always fascinated by stories, and that's partially because my parents used to tell me lots of stories. They migrated from the Democratic Republic of Congo to Italy. So they were, for me and my sister, they were the only people who tell us the stories of our extended family. So they would always tell us those stories. They would always read us stories, and I was fascinated by them, and I was fascinated by how much I could learn and I could connect to people through stories. And I obviously don't think that growing up I had made this kind of reasoning, but I realized that that was one of the things. So I decided that I wanted to work as a freelance journalist. And I started doing that, and I connected with so many people, and I was so happy about, connecting with people, sharing their stories and traveling the world. But I realized that I got really comfortable and very used to sharing other people's stories and completely eliminate mine. It felt very, very safe to do that, until one day we were in Turkey, and I was filming a documentary on African migrants in different cities of the world. And somebody asked me, "Why are you doing this?" And I said, because the way migration is portrayed is unfair, there is imbalance, and they only show some sides. And then he insisted, and he followed up, and he said, "Yeah, but why you?" And I feel like that question was such a pivotal moment for me in my career, because I started to think about my story, my achievements, my values, my whys in a way. And I realized, actually, instead of reporting on other people's stories, I want them to be the one to tell their own stories. But I really had to start with myself. So I started working on my story. I started researching and how to, understanding how to share it, what were the triggers, what were the things that I wanted to share, what were the things that I didn't want to share, and why. And this whole process took like 4 years. But on the other side of it, I came out with structures and frameworks for people to go through the same process. So I started working with women of color entrepreneurs first, and then I started working with corporate organization, because I do believe that storytelling doesn't only belong to to books and TED Talks and to these massive events, and they surely don't just belong to the outside. So I love the fact that with organizations I can work so that they can share more stories internally. And yeah, and so far this is the story that has been unfolding professionally, and it's still being written.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. I love it. And I like particularly that you mentioned it's a deliberate work. It's not that something comes to you all of a sudden. You focus on it and you make it work. And if you could give a challenge to all freelancers listening or watching us right now, something they could do this week to strengthen their storytelling, what would it be?
If I could give them a challenge, it definitely wouldn't be anything around the structure, but it would be about finding one story regarding the moment they decided to do what they're doing. So telling someone, maybe at the beginning it might be the case that they reflect on the story themselves, but then I want them to share it with someone else. So the prompt in a way is, when was the moment that you have decided that what you wanted to do is what you're doing right now?
It's so cool. I'm going to write it down and share it in our community so that people actually react on that. That's so fantastic. Thank you so much, Beatrice. Where can we find your book?
So the book, you can find it on Amazon. I can share with you the link. It's called Lead With Your Story. And then I'm usually hanging out online on LinkedIn and on Instagram. It's funny because on LinkedIn, if you just type Beatrice Storytelling, I come out. And then on Instagram is BEA_storytelling coach.
All right, wonderful. Thank you so much, Beatrice, for joining.
Thank you, Elena.
And see you around.
See you.
I hope you enjoyed this conversation and that it gave you the kick you need to start thinking about your story. To conclude this closing session, I would like to thank all the speakers who joined the 6th edition of Freelance Business Month, which was truly a community-led initiative. Without you, truly, this event wouldn't have happened. So I appreciate your contribution. And if you're interested in speaking at the next edition, please reach out to me. Wait. Is there another edition already in the planning? I don't know. We'll see. I am immensely grateful to all participants for being part of this event. And a big thank you to all supporters of this initiative. Specifically Freelancing EU for being our media partner. I appreciate your sharing. And PlannerNet for being the official partner of the Freelance Business Month. Thank you, everyone. I truly enjoyed this another month. And I'm out now. Bye.